Tretí blok s názvom Od budov k mestským štvrtiam. Môžeme teda otvoriť tak, že od mierky budov sa presunieme k udržateľným štvrtiam a mestskému plánovaniu, ktoré je nosnou témou tohtoročného Green Building Summitu 2023.
Žiadne budovanie v urbánnom kontexte izolovaná reaguje, ovplyvňuje, skvalitňuje alebo naopak znehodnocuje svoje okolie. V skutočnosti však predpokladom pre správne začlenenie do živého organizmu mesta je kvalitný urbanizmus, územné plánovanie a v neposlednom rade spolupráca aktérov.
Ako uvádza náš prvý speaker tohto posledného bloku, Philippe Rahm, vo svojom manifeste architektúra a urbanizmus tradične reflektovali na klímu a zdravie. Týmto odozdávam slovo tebe, Oli, a poprosím ťa, povedz nám pár slov.
So, Philippe Rahm is a Swiss architect, principal in the office of Philippe Rahm Architect, based in Paris, France. His work, which extends from the field of architecture, from the physiological to the meteorological, has received an international audience in the context of sustainability. His recent works include, among others, the first prize for Farini competition in Milan, the 70-hectare Central Park in Taichung, Taiwan, the Agora of the French National Radio in Paris. He has held professorship at several universities, among others, Harvard University, Columbia, Cornell, or Princeton. Climatic Architecture, a monography book of his, will be published soon. And now just a short introduction to his presentation. And now I have to read it, not to miss the point. Faced with the climatic and sanitary challenges of the 21st century, Philippe proposes to reset our discipline on its intrinsic atmospheric qualities, where air, light, heat, or humidity are recognized as real materials of building, convection, thermoconduction, evaporation, emissivity, or effusivity, are becoming design tools for composing architecture and cities, and through materialism, dialectic are able to revolutionize aesthetic and social values. Philippe, s'il vous plaît, je vous en prie.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me in here, and I will present a part of my work that is more focusing on the urban design, and yes, just announce new monography will be published very soon in English, so it's an important point for us. It's called Climatic Architecture. Now, I would like to talk about what's happened at urban scale. So first, we have to understand that the cities are becoming more and more hot. This is a problem in Switzerland. It was not the case before, or in France. It's too hot in Paris during the summer. And we can see that the heat waves are growing and doing more longer. So this is becoming one of the crucial points of what we have to do when we are designing public space, where we are designing an extension of the city or a neighborhood for building. Then there is this question of global warming. So you know, the general temperature will be higher and higher. We are talking now in Paris of 4 degrees Celsius. So Paris should think about what's happened when it's 50 degrees Celsius during the summer. Then, of course, in the city, there is this problem of the urban heat island. It's more hot in the city because for different reasons, but the lack of ventilation, the dark surface of the city. So we have to think about how to decrease that. Then the problem of the flood, we can see that the rain that becoming stronger, so we have to imagine how to manage that in the city. And the question of pollution, air pollution, the PM2.5 pollution, we know it's cancerous, so we have to manage also these things. So maybe all this new, not new, but this materialist reality have to be the core of our discipline as urban designer. And what we have to do maybe today is to think about to reduce urban heat island, to manage flood, to reduce PM2.5, and to maybe to preserve biodiversity too. So if we want to do that, we have to use some tools for designing the city. And these tools should be maybe climatic too. You know, we don't, because before maybe we think to design the city with perspective or with a square, with geometry, but why not to design the city with convection, evaporation, and why we don't think that the material of urbanism can be wind, light, water, and the material value can be albedo, effusivity, emissivity. So we have to bring the meteorological or the climatic science into the discipline and to design with that, and maybe not only with some with a metaphor or with some geometry that are not from the field. So, the element of composition can be this one, and now I would jump on different projects we made recently linked to that. The first project is a competition we won in 2019 in Milano with Remcolas, OMA, and this is a team. And this is for two parts of Milan, linked to the railway, so it was like empty space, abandoned space from the railway company. And one was 60 hectares in Farini district, very in the center of Milan, and another is 15 hectares on the south, San Cristoforo. So the main idea of the project was to create some urban development, but to think about the public space not only as a social for human, but also as environmental and ecological tools for designing the public space. So we have invented this idea of limpidarium. So the idea that we will do a park, but the park will be also will have an environmental issue that will be like to clean the air or to clean the water. So we have these two limpidarium d'aria, limpidarium d'aqua, cleaning the air, cleaning the water. So for cleaning the air, it's also cooling the air. So this is a little the situation in Milan, in Italy, with the heat. And the limpidarium d'aria is a device that can cool and clean the air. So for doing that, we propose to have a space where we will do we will plan the most cooling effect. For doing that, we choose white material, we choose to create shadow, we choose to create to have evaporation. So evaporation is the change of liquid to gas, cool the air. And with that, we can create a very cold pole that can make a new wind, a kind of urban wind that will cool the city, cool the new district by creating wind because it's hot in one point, cold in the other, so it activates a wind. Then there is a problem of pollution. So the pollution, we know that we need to not to have dead-end street. We need always the wind have to go through and to evacuate the heat, but also the pollution. So in the limpidarium, we also place some solution for cleaning the air. And so we try to do that with trees. It's not so easy in reality, but we also propose to have sometimes some artificial rain when the PM 2.5 are too important. You know, we can fall down that with this kind of artificial rain that can also cool the space. And so the new wind will be clean and cool and go in the new district. So this is the district here. And what we did, we can see the new master plan here and the computational fluid dynamic model to show the new wind. And all the buildings are parallel to the wind to let the wind go through. So we find some old typology in Milan that can fit inside that. And so this is some other type of research. And then we talk about the color of the building. You know, what type of color should be the city? You know, normally we say there is some regulation that say, okay, Manchester should be red, Paris white, or Neuchâtel in Switzerland yellow. You know, you have this kind of law, but we don't know anymore why it's like that. But here we can say, okay, we should have white surface for all the horizontal, but we should have white, we should have also everything could be white, but maybe it's not so bad to have, I can show here, to have the top of the building more dark, so the sunlight and the heat during the summer will touch the top of the building and then become heat and no more going down to the sidewalk. So it means the heat will stay at the top of the building and be evacuated with the wind. So it preserves the sidewalk from the overheating. So it's why it's not good to have all the facade white, the vertical facade. It's better to have more dark at the top and becoming whiter, and all the horizontal surface should be white. So this is like a new regulation of urban design color, but not linked to subjective idea, but to more climatic and solution. Then there is so this is this new district and the Limpidarium at the base of the new district. So this is some element. There is also something, a way to think about the development of the in 50 years. You know, to first to clean the ground before building, and so there is this different step there. And something that was made by OMA that was quite clever is the idea that depending on the quantity of money, we don't know exactly what will be the future of Milan. So it can be, if there is a lot of money, it can be like Dubai. If there is no money, it will stay like an Italian small city. So our project is not depending of a certain amount of money. We say that we have a system that permit to change. You know, maybe in 10 years we have, maybe now we have a lot of money, but in 5 years less. So we can adapt every time the project linked to the amount of money. And so we don't have a final image of the city, or it should be from an aesthetic point of view. So this is like this new district. We can see this difference of color. So there is a misunderstanding from the guy that did the image, because he plays a white at the top instead. So it should be the gradation from the building should be more dark and more like that. But we can see also that all the air can go through, and there is no trap for the air. Then we have another Limpidarium, 15 hectares down, that is without construction, without building, but it's a park. And here it's not to clean the air, it's to clean the underground water. And so we have phytoremediation, because there is a lot of underground river in Milan that are polluted today. And so we propose to clean them and to create a long pool like a human pool and non-human pool. So we can see some image like that, that can be a proposal for an urban public space on the south of Milan. Now I would like to present a big project of 70 hectares we have won in 2011, and it's open in 2020. So I work during a lot of years on this project in Taiwan, in Taichung. So it was called Jade Eco Park at the beginning, and then it became Central Park in Taichung. So this is the site. We can see the park under construction. So it starts from there and it's finished here. And the park is a little like Central Park in the middle of a new development, urban development. And it's on the site of an old airport. So it was already flat like that. And so the master plan of this park was based on climatic issues, because in 2011, when we tried to understand why we should do a park, what is the mission of the park, the target of the park, by looking back to the 19th century park, we saw that the reason of the park was to clean and to cool the city. It's like, the first park, the Victoria Park in London in 1840 was made for that. Alphand in Haussmann in Paris did park for that, and also in New York, Central Park is for cooling and cleaning. So we did that. We say, okay, we will cool, we will clean, but we will also dry the space with our park. So it was like a very fundamental reason of the public space by working on these three layers. And so now I will explain how we made this master plan. So first, we want to cool, in Taiwan, it's a tropical hot country. So we want to cool the outdoor space because it's very hot. So in reality, the temperature is quite everywhere the same, the light is everywhere the same, but there is one factor that is not everywhere the same, is the wind. And there is a north wind that comes very often in there, and this wind, when it's still under 34 degrees Celsius, when it's still under the temperature of the skin, it still have a cooling effect. And so it's like blowing on the skin. So we did with a German company, Transsolar, we do a map of the north wind, we can see here. Where it's red, there is a lot of wind. When it's blue, there is no wind. So we did this map, this wind map, and with this new district, so we can see the new building that will be made there. So it's like a future, like a future situation. And after doing this wind map, we transform that into form. We can see, we say, okay, here it's more colder, here it's warmer. And then to materialize that, we place trees. So where it's cold by convection, so by blowing on you, so we can cool, we can double the effect of cooling by creating shadow. So it will be windy and without sun. And so it's why we start to place a lot of trees where it's very cold and less trees where it's less cold. So it's a little what, first we have the climate and then the form and then the function. And the function is where we have all the coldest area. We call that the Kulia. So it's like the land of the cool. And we have the southern Kulia, middle Kulia. And then we place all the leisure activity in this place. So it's why we say function, follow form, follow climate. It's like it's a reverse way of designing things. And then for the trees, we choose precisely the trees with a lot of leaf, for creating big shadow, or big or white trees. white leaf or big leaf. And then the gradation, it's like a very big forest. Every 3 meters we have trees, and then less and less like that. And for the ground also, we find in the schoolyard to cool at the maximum by the ground, like by evapotranspiration or white surface. So this is a choice of the material is also made for cooling. Then we have another layer about humidity. So the humidity is, we try it in Taiwan, it's very humid. So we try to manage, of course, the rain. We need to manage the rain. So every movement of earth on the site is made for managing the flood. So it's why it's a little, there is hill and things like that. It's only for that. And then, so this is like the different scenario of quantity of rain, and so the park can be flooded. We can see some view of the park like 2 years ago when there is a flood. You can see that it was, here normally it's not full of water, but here there is some water. And then we propose to have, where it's less humid, to have all the sport activity, and because you can sweat better, and so it becomes a drier, and we can see the function, the sport activity equipment that are placed in this more dry space. So the trees for the dryer are floating trees, floating roots, trees that can catch a little the humidity of the air. And the type of ground are high drainage grounds to evacuate very quickly all the water to keep, this dryer very dry. And then we have, because you can sweat better, so we have the dry pass that is becoming a pass for sport people that can, it's more complicated to move in the park with that. Here we can see the blue pass that is a sport pass, the red one that is a cool pass, and then we have the last one that is the clean pass. This is some view. The clean pass is where it's more clean by placing, this is like the pollution map. So we have some big street, and so we did a simple model to see where we are far from the noise, far from the pollution, the air pollution. So we say, okay, here it will be cleaner, here it's more polluted. So we place some trees for depolluting, and then we place all the children activity in this less polluted and less noisy area. So we can see, we call that the clear area, and all these black dots at the end are the family and the children activity. And the clear path is very, for baby car, is very flat. So we have, it gives three possibility of moving in the park linked to different types. This is this type of trees that can absorb, hairy leaf or resinous trees that can absorb the PM 2.5. And then we have some depolluting ground also for that. Then all together, it's we can see the cooling trees, the drying trees, and the depolluting trees. So it creates a variety of microclimate. So here, for example, it can be cool, humid, and polluted, but here it's cool, dry, clean. So, and you can decide where you want to go. You can move from one if you can move freely there. So we have a diversity of microclimate. We don't say that there is only one microclimate that is good. So this is some image of the park. So here we can see. We are in the middle of the park, and the end of the park is there. We can see here we have some bridge also that create a continuity for the for the animals that jump over the street. So it's the image are not so nice. And we have 12 pavilions like that. So this is a kind of pavilion made of structures that is becoming in wood, that are becoming more and more dense. And so by entering first, you have to, it's like a labyrinth, it's becoming very dark and very protected from the sun, and then you move up and it's open more. And this is another one that is made like a density of structure. This I will show more in detail. We have these climatic devices. And so on the north of the park here, no, you cannot see, but very on the north, we have 7,000 square meters of photovoltaic panel and 3,000 on the south. And it creates all the electricity of the park, but also more than is required. And we have proposed to have this photovoltaic panel as a canopy, as a roof. And under the roof, we have a car, but we have also building, and we have also a garden. And here we can see that, and by going under, we can find this kind of landscape that are, less, because, Taiwan is close, not close, but to the equator, so the sun is strong. So by creating this kind of mitigation of the sunlight, so it creates you don't suffer from this extreme sunlight, but use this extreme sunlight to produce electricity. So it's quite quite an interesting way of. It's like a reverse greenhouse in a certain way. So we can see that. And the building also are made by layering, from the thermal insulation to the waterproof to the physical limit. So we have this kind of gradation, and we place air conditioning only when it's really needed, when the people are staying walking during all the day. But for example, in the toilet, it's only covering from the roof, but the air is moving freely inside or in all the corridor. So this is I just show this maintenance center that is made like that. So, sorry, we can see that. We have the physical layers, and then we have the rain layers, and then we have the waterproof layer and the thermal insulation layers. So it's like normally everything is together, but here we open space in between, and we can live in between these different layers. So we can see here. This kind of, so we have car park here, and then we have storage, and or we have a toilet, and then we have only these three small room with air conditioning here. So it's like. Okay, we can go there. Okay, and here, this is one, what we call the meteorological garden, that are using some technique for cooling, cooling by convection, cooling by radiation, or cooling by evaporation. And for example, we use geothermal cooling, so we do some tests. We can see that it's 25 degrees Celsius, 5 meters underground, when it's 40 degrees Celsius at the surface of the soil. And so we go down with the duct, and we can cool the air underground, and then we blow with this kind of device. We can blow cold air in the park, and this was a test we made with a transolar to calculate the size of the duct, and then we create this device like that create like some spot in the park that becoming also point of interest of attraction there. We have another, the stratus cloud, we call that is by evaporation. We have this cloud, and so the change of from water from liquid to gas cool the space, and so it creates also another kind of interest. Okay, and then I will finish by presenting the smart intelligent system of the park. So every 50 meters we have sensors that are measuring the pollution, the heat, and the humidity. And so we can see this meteorological station every 50 meters. And then all the information go to the computer, and then it creates some index, like you can see in real time where it's hot or cold, and the same with the humidity of the air, and then the same of the pollution of the air, and then from that you have an access to your smartphone, and so you can go there and look where you are, and find the situation, and you can decide to go in the less polluted area or the more cold area, and you can move inside the park according to that. So this map, this meteorologic map, is made in real time. Every is remake in real time there. Okay, so thank you very much.
So, merci beaucoup, Philippe, for your presentation. It is my pleasure to welcome here Mr. Ondřej Chybík, partner at CHYBIK+KRISTOF, associate architects from Czech Republic, well-established studio on the international scene, but at the same time, very well known with the local environment. Before we hear more about how places are created by CHYBIK+KRISTOF studio, I will tell a bit more about Ondřej. He studied architecture and urban planning at VUT in Brno, TU Graz in Austria, and ETH Zurich in Switzerland, where he studied urban strategies for the Indian megalopolis of Mumbai and the Brazilian mining town of, I hope I will pronounce it correctly, Paraupebas. Tell me if I'm right or not. I hope I am right. And in 2010, together with Miháliková, he founded studio CHYBIK+KRISTOF Architects. So with no further words, I will welcome him on the stage. Please, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. thank you for the invitation. Thank you for this great opportunity to share our projects with you. I'll switch to Czech because my Czech vocabulary is a little bit richer than my English one, and then we can continue the panel in English, of course. Dobré odpoledne. Já začnu, pokusím se představit, jmenuji se Ondřej Chybík, přijel jsem z Brna, kde máme náš hlavní ateliér. Toto je naše webová stránka, kterou vytvořil Lukáš Kionka, a když jsme připravovali naši novou vizuální identitu, tak mi slíbil, že když půjdeme s jeho konceptem, tak už nikdy nebudu muset připravovat prezentaci, že budu moct používat tento nástroj jako prezentační tool. Takže se o tom přesvědčme. Náš vizuální styl funguje tak, že je to Chybík plus Krištof plus tým 63 architektů, 83 klientů v 57 místech, kde jsme zatím se pokusili vytvořit site-specific řešení. Se rovná 507 projektů během 13 let a aktuálně nabízíme jednu otevřenou pozici a máme 3 kanceláře v Brně, kde nás sedí většina, potom v našem hlavním městě Praze, kde máme zhruba 15 architektů, a také máme malý ateliér v Bratislavě. Když jsem se podíval na to, co bych měl dnes přednášet na této velice prestižní konferenci, tak jsem se prvně vyděsil, co za speakery přede mnou bude mluvit, a pokusím se přispět na toto téma green buildings a vůbec udržitelného stavění. My si myslíme, že zelená budova nemusí být zásadně zelená, nemusí být porostlá mechem nebo kapradím, ale je to způsob přemýšlení, který si myslíme, že by nám měl být vlastní a měli bychom se chovat šetrně. Všechny projekty, které jsme kdy vytvořili, tak pracovali s tímto kontextem, s tímto konceptem. A já vám pokusím se vám představit 6 projektů, které budou úplně od nějakého malého zásahu, malého objektu, až po městskou čtvrť, nebo část městské čtvrti, kterou aktuálně stavíme v Praze. Úplně první projekt, který se stal do jisté míry zajímavým, tak byla tato budova, ke které jsme se dostali přes Adama Gebriana, který nás doporučil panu Pšolkovi, který vyrábí židle. Světe div se. A když jsme přišli se podívat poprvé na místo, tak jsme se setkali s tímto objektem, který byl postaven začátkem 90. let na kraji panelového sídliště v Brně. A velkou otázkou pro nás bylo, zda ji máme zbourat nebo ho máme zachovat. My jsme se rozhodli, že ji zachováme a pokusíme se za co nejmenší možný budget vytvořit výraznou proměnu, která bude zároveň reprezentovat objekt a také náplň toho objektu, to znamená to, co se děje uvnitř. Společnost Mi 2 vyrábí nábytek a oni potřebovali showroom a kanceláře pro to, aby mohli dále fungovat a mohli fungovat v mém rodném městě Brně. A my jsme dostali za úkol se zamyslet nejenom nad exteriérem, ale i interiérem. A přišli jsme s tímto řešením, které bylo cenově nejdostupnější. This is probably the most affordable facade system on the planet Earth, protože my jsme použili jejich produkt, který jsou schopni vyrobit za 3 € a dali jsme ji na fasádu. A ten produkt reprezentuje nenásilně to, co se děje uvnitř, že jsou výrobcem a prodejcem nábytku. Zároveň tento produkt ten objekt chladí, i když ta barva je černá, tak je to vlastně předsazená fasáda, která chladí ten primární skin. A zároveň říká, že uvnitř se děje něco, co možná není na první pohled jasné. My jsme nechtěli navrhnout showroom nábytku jako ve tvaru židle, ale přišlo nám, že to může fungovat jako funkční banner, který bude reprezentovat to, co se děje uvnitř. Já mám malou dceru Josefínu a tak když minulý týden jela kolem tohoto objektu a maminka jí ukazovala, že jsem autorem tady toho domu, tak říkala, židle na fasádě, tati, to je blbina. Takže setkávám se občas i s kritikou toho, co se podaří navrhnout. Často se nás lidé ptají, jakým způsobem se to čistí. Jednou za čtvrt roku přijde člověk s vapkou a umyje to. A velice zajímavé je to, že všechny budovy kolem tohoto objektu jsou posprejovány a tento není. A už tam je od roku 2017, to znamená, že i je lidem, kteří domy demolují nebo pro někoho zdobí, tak vlastně se to možná líbí a nedemolují to. Druhý projekt, který bych chtěl ukázat, takže když se budeme bavit o zelených budovách v tomto případě, tak jsme se pokusili ten dům nezdemolovat, nezbourat ho, neodstranit ho, nestavět něco nového, ale vytvořit adaptivní reuse, to znamená využít objekt, který existuje a doplnit ho novou vrstvou, která může dalších desítky let sloužit. Podobný příklad adaptivního na téma adaptive reuse, tak je tento objekt bývalé trafostanice. Trafostanice, která vznikla v srdci města Znojma, vinařský region Jižní Moravy, hlavní město vína, tak vznikl v 60. letech a když vám ukážu, na jakém místě se tento objekt nachází, tak si možná budeme říkat, co to bylo za dobu, ta uplynulá, co to bylo za cynickou dobu, jak je možné, že na místě, které má úplně neuvěřitelný kontext, a to je toto, tak jak je možné, že na tomto místě vznikla kotelna. Možná kotelna, ze které nebyl žádný výhled, nebyla tam žádná veřejná funkce, byla to kotelna, která sloužila pivovaru a jediný, kdo z toho mohl mít výhled, tak možná byl nějaký disident, který tam za trest musel topit. Ale naším cílem bylo opět nebourat, neodstraňovat ten původní objekt a nevytvářet zbytečný odpad, ale zamyslet se nad tím, jakým způsobem můžeme ten stávající objekt vytěžit a jakým způsobem můžeme dosáhnout toho nejlepšího možného výhledu na katedrálu svatého Mikuláše, který je hlavní dominantou Znojma. Naším principem bylo do tohoto objektu vložit takovouto vestavbu, takovouto rafinovanou barelovou dřevěnou vestavbu, která reflektuje jednotlivé výhledy na katedrálu svatého Mikuláše a zároveň se propisuje směrem na tu původní fasádu kotelny novou vrstvou otvoru, které dávají trošku prozradit, že se v tom objektu děje něco nového, něco úplně jiného. Ty výhledy jsou nejenom na katedrálu svatého Mikuláše, ale i na radniční věž. A touto vlastně poměrně jednoduchou vestavbou jsme dosáhli toho, že ten objekt už není jenom technickým zázemím pivovaru, ale je to místem, kde se dá konzumovat vynikající jihomoravské víno. Když o tomto projektu přednáším někde v zahraničí, tak říkám, spáchali jsme zločin v Česku, z pivovaru jsme udělali vinařství. A to se v Česku nesmí, protože jsme nejvíc konzumující národ piva a produkující piva na světě. A já jsem strašně rád, že se podařilo toto vytvořit, protože si myslím, že identifikace obyvatel s místem, odkud pochází, kde žijí, tak je velice důležitá pro to, aby si vážili toho, kde žijí, aby ze svých měst neodcházeli do větších sídel. A to, že tam je ten krásný výhled, tak si myslím, že může přispět k tomuto tématu a jakési znovu objevení krás Znojma. Troufám si tvrdit, že přispěl i tento projekt. Pro stejného klienta jsme vytvořili úplně jiný projekt, který není v centru města, ale je uprostřed vinic a to je vinařství Lahofer. Tento dům není dřevěný, není pokryt zelení, ale my věříme tomu, že když se navrhne dům rukou architekta, tak a podaří se jej solidně realizovat a podaří se jej solidně užívat, tak je velká pravděpodobnost, že ten objekt, ten dům, tu architekturu, jeho uživatelé budou mít rádi, budou se o něj starat, protože když něco máte rádi, tak se o něj staráte. V momentě, kdy se o takovouto architekturu někdo stará, tak je velká pravděpodobnost, že tady bude stát desítky, možná stovky let. To je základní premisa mého celého názoru na udržitelnost a myslím si, že my architekti k tomu můžeme celkem solidním způsobem přispět. Vinařství Lahofer leží uprostřed krásné zvlněné jihomoravské krajiny a leží na takto barevné půdě. Díky této půdě vzniká velice dobrý Riesling, doporučuji si zajet na Moravu, do Znojma, do Dobšic a ochutnat jejich Riesling je, myslím si, že velice srovnatelný s rakouskými vzorky. A naším tématem bylo vytvořit vinařství, které se propojí s tou překrásnou zvlněnou jihomoravskou krajinou. A když jsme tam poprvé přijeli, tak jsme si uvědomili jednu věc, že to vinařství, pokud ho dáme nešikovně, tak může tu krásu té zvlněné krajiny, to řádkování agrikulturní krajiny zablokovat, takže naším cílem bylo co nejvíce propojit ty jednotlivé řádky s interiérem a s rámováním těch jednotlivých konstrukčních prvků, které jsou zaklenuté. A ten span 2,75 m vinného řádku jsme propsali do budovy. A tím jsme vytvořili takovýto zaklenutý prostor, který už ve Znojmě teď 3 roky stojí a je velice hodně využíván. S tím, že ta archetypální zaklenutá vrstva, zaklenutý prostor, který má asociovat vinný sklep, tak není samoučelná, ale vlastně překlapuje se dál do venkovního amfiteátru. A jsem velice rád, že náš záměr architektonický, protože architekt má sen, jak ten dům může fungovat, a potom je ta realita, jak ten dům reálně funguje a jak ho jeho uživatelé používají, tak jsem velice rád, že náš klient vinařství Lahofer tak má kromě spousty lidí, kteří se starají a pečují o víno, tak aby bylo co nejlepší, tak mají i kulturního referenta, dneska se tomu říká event manažera, a ten event manager je zodpovědný za to, že každý víkend na tomto místě je koncert, tady je Anna K. Myslím, že řada dalších i interpretů ze Slovenska tady mělo možnost vystupovat a každý víkend během letní sezóny se tam děje takováto akce. Takže proto jsem mluvil o tom, že když architekt vlastně navrhne něco, co lidé mají rádi používají a potom se o to starají a potom tak ten dům vlastně může přetrvat na věky. A je to i o výběru vhodného materiálu pro to, aby ten dům nějaký nápor vydržel. Ta malba, která tam je uvnitř, tak vznikla velice specificky. Vznikla tím, že jsme dělali jako mladí architekti, tak to byl náš první projekt, který vznikl z betonu. A v původním materiálovém řešení jsme měli v interiéru dřevěné podhlady, které zakrývaly tu krásu betonu. A my jsme si uvědomili, že když se odbednila ta krásná struktura a propsala se tam ta nepohledovost betonu, protože v projektu byl navržen pouze jako pohledová část ty jednotlivé rámy a ta výplň mezi rámy tak pohledová navržená nebyla. Tak když jsme přišli na to místo a uviděli jsme krásu vlastně tuhnutí betonu, tak jsme si uvědomili, že nic tak krásného nemůžeme zakrýt nějakým laciným dřevěným šprlením. To je celkem zajímavé téma pro překladatele, šprlení, jsem zvědavý. Wooden cladding. A rozhodli jsme se, že poprosíme našeho kamaráda Patrika Hábla, aby vzal v ideálním případě barvy teroáru a propojil tu krásu těch betonů s jeho výmalbou. Takže potom vlastně vznikla, doufám si říct, velice site-specific instalace, která zdobí interiér našeho vinařství a je to možná nějakým takovým drobným překvapením pro návštěvníky, ale zároveň je to velice místně specifické a práce s architekta, s umělcem je troufám si říct, velice často velice přínosná. Tak, aby to nebylo jenom o betonu, tak další téma je samozřejmě v dnešní době dřevostavba. A dřevostavba v Česku plánovaná a největší. A je to sídlo Lesů České republiky. Je to projekt, který byl dvoukolová mezinárodní architektonická soutěž s velice prestižní porotou, myslím, že tam byla Dorte Mandrup, profesor Eberle, profesor Schick z ETH. A my jsme měli to štěstí, že jsme tento projekt vyhráli a těšili jsme se na realizaci. Je to sídlo společnosti, která zodpovídá za všechny lesy v České republice a je největším producentem dřeva v zemi. Nicméně potom přišel my jsme vyprojektovali projektovou dokumentaci do posledního šroubku, do prováděcí dokumentace a těsně než přišel na řadu tender na generálního dodavatele, tak přišel do Česka kůrovec a pan Babiš, děkujeme, a ten projekt se zastavil. Nicméně pan Babiš už není premiérem a je velká šance po posledních jednáních, že by se tento projekt mohl rozjet dál. Ten tvar, který tady vidíte, tak není proto, že by měl vypadat jako větvička, protože to je sídlo lesů České republiky, ale ten tvar je tady proto, že v tom meziprstí vzniká poměrně zajímavé mikroklima, které by mělo pomáhat k pozitivní bilanci teplot během léta. Ten dům by se neměl přehřívat, v těch prstech by mělo být vlhčeji a chladněji a tím pádem by měla být výrazně nižší bilance potřeby energie na chlazení této budovy během letních měsíců. A já pevně doufám, že se ten projekt rozjede a že ho příští rok začneme stavět, protože si myslím, že by to byl by to velice důležitý milestone v rámci stavění ze dřeva u nás v Česku, možná i na Slovensku. Ta požární výška je výrazně nižší než 22 metrů, ale je to investice zhruba za 1,5 miliardy korun, děleno 25, teď to nespočítám z hlavy, ale myslím si, že by to prospělo velice tomu tématu, které je aktuálně dost atraktivní. A trošku mě mrzí, že se nám to nepodařilo postavit před těmi 3 lety, nebo nezačalo se stavit před těmi 3 lety, nebo 4 lety, kdy jsme měli hotovou prováděcí dokumentaci, protože dneska by ten dům už stál a myslím si, že bychom byli v tématu dřevostaveb daleko dál. Předposlední projekt, než už se dostávám od architektury k větším architekturám, tak je téma dostupného bydlení. Ještě ukážu jeden projekt. Vím, že se strašně řeší poslední dobou, jestli bourat nebo nebourat. A často se zapomíná na architektonické dědictví z doby, kdy já jsem se narodil v roce 85. Tento objekt autobusové nádraží Zvonařka vzniklo v roce 82. A bylo často bráno jako jedna z největších ostud v městě Brně. Já jsem uživatel tohoto nádraží a neumím řídit auto, pořád jsem se to ještě nenaučil, tak jsem byl nucen vlastně z tohohle místa odjíždět různě na různá jednání autobusem po kraji. A přišlo mi úplně bizarní, jakým způsobem a v jaké formě a v jaké kondici tato struktura, tato megastruktura 100x100 metrů je. My jsme začali bádat po katastru a po všech možných čertech, jak je možné, že ten dům vypadá, jak vypadá. Zjistili jsme, že nepatří městu ani státu, ale že byl privatizován v 90. letech. A během té privatizace jej koupili lidé, jejichž biznis je pronájem těch stanovišť pro autobusovou dopravu. To znamená, že když je provozovatel autobusu a jejich biznis je, že jim pronajmou tady tu 41, můžou tam zaparkovat a můžou tam vyložit, nastoupit lidi a odjet. Takže si dokážete představit, jak je to velký biznis, je to malinký biznis. A my jsme oslovili majitele a začali jsme se ptát, jak je možné, že to nejsou vlastně pořádně čistit, ani opravit, ani nic. A oni nám odpověděli, že jejich biznis je malý a že vlastně na to nemají. Že ty záměry s tím objektem měli úplně jiné, ale vlastně byli chyceni do nějaké pasti, protože ten development v této části Brna šel daleko pomaleji, než se myslelo a vlastně uvízli v jakési pasti svého malého biznisu. My jsme vytvořili jednoduchou studii, kterou jsme si sami sobě zadali, ukázali jsme jim, jakým způsobem by se ten prostor mohl proměnit a oni souhlasili s tím, že když je propojíme s lidmi, kteří jsou schopni sehnat evropské dotace a tak dál, tak bychom se mohli tomu projektu věnovat dál. Podařilo se sehnat 70% investice do tohoto projektu, 30% byli schopni zaplatit ze svých úspor, ze svého malého biznesu a ze 100% jsme z tohoto vlastně velice smutného místa a večer si troufám říct i nebezpečného, vytvořili objekt, který si myslím, že zachovává kvalitu brutalistně high-tech architektury 80. let, ale zároveň je schopen dýchat trošku čerstvým životem a trošku se zařadit mezi architekturu soudobou a současnou. Ten trik nebyl v ničem jiném, než to nabílo natřít, vytvořit velice speciální, ale žádná rocket science nasvětlení, které nesvítí jenom dolů, ale svítí i nahoru, to znamená nasvětluje tu konstrukci a ukazuje vlastně krásu té neuvěřitelné 100x100 metrů ocelové konstrukce, kterou dneska už nikdo nepostaví. Ten důvod, proč ta konstrukce je tak masivní, je, že nahoře parkují autobusy. Nahoře je to parkoviště autobusu, to znamená, že ta konstrukce musela být takto předimenzovaná, takto nosná, aby autobusy nemuseli parkovat někde daleko, ale mohlo to být všechno jako double decker na jednom místě. A je to pro mě to bude asi celoživotní projekt, protože teď se potýkáme zase s údržbou, že tam nefunguje pořádně a člověk permanentně vlastně musí do někoho šťuchat, aby se ty věci zlepšovaly, aby jsme nežili v nějaké černé díře. Takže toto ve smyslu architektury a teď k těm čtvrtím nebo drobným urbanismům. My jsme měli to štěstí, že jsme v roce 2017 vyhráli soutěž, kterou organizovalo město Brno, na jedno z prvních takzvaných affordable housing ve městě. Je to projekt, který je založen na družstevním bydlení, investorem je statutární město Brno a naším cílem bylo vybrat nebo vymyslet koncept, jakým způsobem může být bydlení dostupné. Není dostupné pouze tím, že bude dotováno městem. Je důležité, aby město bylo schopné vytipovat vhodný pozemek, který bude cenově dostupný i pro to samotné město. To znamená, že bude v centru nebo bude v širším centru. To znamená, že město nemusí stavět kilometry nových sítí, ale najde si pozemek, který je v jeho vlastnictví a je už zasíťován a je napojen na veškerou infrastrukturu. Díky tomu ušetří dost peněz a díky tomu ten projekt může být affordable. Další téma bylo vytvořit systém vnitřního dvora, který bude nabízet možná větší užitnost než skupina solitérních objektů, protože může vzniknout komunitní prostor, který výrazně slouží rezidentům jednotlivých bytů a ty byty díky tomu můžou být menší, protože je velký předpoklad, protože budou řadu svých aktivit vykonávat v přízemí a v parteru, kde jsou navrženy společenské místnosti nebo tento vnitřní dvůr. Ale zároveň bylo důležité, pokud máte malý byt, pokud ho chcete využívat plnohodnotně s rodinou, ale zároveň je potřeba šetřit metry, aby byl opravdu cenově dostupný, tak jsme navrhli koncept takzvaných rozšířených schodišť, které nefungují jenom jako schodiště, ale fungují jako společenské místnosti. Fungují jako místo, kde si můžete sednout, pronajmout přes aplikaci stůl a můžete tam pracovat. A je to takový semi-private space, který vlastně může vesele sloužit rodinám, ale zároveň tím, že ty byty jsou malé, tak jsme se snažili vytvořit typologii, která bude trošku odlišná od standardních developerských typologií, kterým se věnujeme taky. A ta typologie pracuje s tímto fórem, že ta vstupní hala a ložnice se dají buď to úplně otevřít a vzniká tento propojený prostor, anebo se dají uzavřít a vznikají vlastně poměrně malé, ale velice soukromé pokoje. Myslím si, že jednoduchý trik, jak dosáhnout jisté velkorysosti v poměrně malém půdorysu. Takže tolik k How to make affordable housing in Brno. A úplně poslední projekt, který bych vám rád dnes ukázal, tak je projekt, který je jeden z největších, který se nám aktuálně realizuje. Je to pro společnost Skanska v Praze. Je to projekt, který má přibližně 800 bytů a zabývá se jedním poměrně zajímavým tématem a to je práce s brownfieldem, ke kterému, když jsme přišli, tak už byl zbourán, což mě teda mrzí, protože často se snažíme zachovat řadu objektů, které na pozemku jsou, tak se je snažíme co nejvíc využívat. Nicméně, než to Skanska koupila, tak to měl jiný developer, ten to zboural a měl obrovské problémy s městskou částí. Nepodařilo se mu nic prosadit, prodal to za dobrý peníz Skansce. A my, když jsme přišli, tak vlastně ta fabrika, ten cukrovar tam už nestal. A naší ambicí bylo ji tam trošku připomenout. Všimli jsme si tady té siluety, která funguje s touto střechou, s vyšším a nižším objektem a komínem. Jediné, co tam zůstalo, tak je komín, ale tu siluetu jsme se snažili znovu vytvořit minimálně hmotově, aby když člověk zavře oči, tak aby si trošku vzpomněl na tu původní siluetu, která tam historicky byla. To byl první koncepční driver. A druhým cílem bylo vytvořit funkční veřejný prostor. Bylo velké téma, je to v Modřanech, to je Praha 12, a Modřany nemají historický náměstí. Modřany se rozvíjely tak, že byla to vesnice, ta neměla ani pořádnou náves a potom přišlo sídliště v 70. 80. letech a byl to typický příklad modernistického urbanismu, to znamená spousta zeleně uprostřed objekty a žádný centrální veřejný prostor. A naší společnou ambicí s klientem bylo vytvořit centrální veřejný prostor, který bude fungovat jako náměstí, jako jasná definice středu, jako místo, které funguje velice veřejně a nefunguje pouze pro rezidenty, kteří sem přijdou, ale funguje i pro původní obyvatele, jako centrum, kde si můžou nakoupit, kde si můžou zajít k zubařovi, vlastně všechno, co byste na normální náměstí měli najít, tak si myslíme, že by se mohlo najít zde. Je to projekt, který pracuje s dešťovou vodou. Nemáme tam jedinou trubku, která by šla do kanalizace, veškerou dešťovou vodu vsakujeme nebo ji znovu používáme na splachování. Je to projekt, který pracuje se zelenými střechami, jako s automatickým standardem ve smyslu biodiverzity. A je to také projekt, kde se pokoušíme s univerzitou vyvinout beton, který nebude pouze betonem ve smyslu máme kamenivo a máme cement a z toho vytvoříme beton, ale to kamenivo se snažíme nahradit zbytky těch původních staveb, které tam stále jsou v rámci deponie a testujeme, jakým způsobem můžeme ty nadrcené cihly využívat pro výstavbu tohoto projektu. A to nejenom v rámci konstrukce, ale i v rámci pohledovosti, kdy když se vybrousí tato směs, tak vznikne tento krásný, skoro terrazzo-like materiál. A samozřejmě velká otázka je, co se děje při nasákávání, zmrznutí, vypadnutí. Máme to v laboratoři, testujeme 30 let teď a zjišťujeme, že staticky to nevadí a esteticky to taky nevadí, protože se z toho najednou stává taková vlastně poměrně zajímavá světlostín hra, která se nám líbí. Takže doufám, že se nám podaří tento materiál použít i vizuálně. Takže na konci dne by na té fasádě mohly být panely z rebetongu, který bude doplňovat ten původní komín a možná i paměť toho místa. Děkuji za pozornost.
Ďakujeme veľmi pekne, Ondřej. Ja neviem to rozháčkem vysloviť, ospravedlňujem sa. Nechcem to dať na Babiša. No, the last but not least is the moment. So the only woman speaker in today's lineup. And the last speaker, not just of the conference, but especially of our best practice examples section, is Scheel, from an architect and a director of markets from Sweco Architects in Denmark. As an architect, Mia strives to create livable cities. Key is to have diversity, safety, nature, healthy materials, and well-being in focus. Future-proof city planning is something she has worked with for years in the Nordics. Her expertise covers planning in relation to housing, business, retail, transformation, and conservation. Today, will Mia present 3 successful urban developments to get inspiration from. Firstly, the urban redevelopment of the city Odense. How do you revitalize a city area where infrastructure has cut the city in 2 halves for a half a century? UN17 Village, a new neighborhood in Copenhagen that embraces all UN17 sustainable development goals. And thirdly, the urban development from a large market hall and logistics center to a thriving neighborhood of 3,000 new dwellings, being Grøntorvet, Copenhagen. So, ladies and gentlemen, with all due respect to our last speaker, but as a call for your attention, please welcome the one and only Mia Scheel.
Thanks, guys. How nice of you. Hello, everyone. And it's been a long day. I hope you have a little bit of energy left for the last speaker. Since I'm going to talk a lot about urban planning, it's a lot about collaboration. So, guys, just to get your energy a little bit going here, and we want to see who's basically in the crowd. Everyone, private developer and investors, please stand up. Come. Now? Yes, thank you. Thank you. Look around. Okay. Collaboration. So, everybody, authorities, planners, please stand up. Oh, bad sign, bad sign. Online. Oh, thank you, thank you. Advisors. Thank you. Suppliers. Stora Enso, thank you, VHAG. So, collaboration. This is it. Otherwise, we don't get to make great cities. So please stay in network and get to know each other. I'm going to talk about livability. This sounds okay? A little echoing, yeah? Right. Let's do this. So, where I'm from, we're Sweco. We're only 20,000 consultants within the whole specialities of the building industry. We work in 15 different countries. So the closest being Czech and Germany. Here we go. So we have specialities within 100 disciplines, and that is super important, creating great cities. We need to work interdisciplinary when creating complex infrastructure and great cities. So basically, collaboration again, architecture, the engineering, the infrastructure and water and environmental handling, of course, and then the data-based science, which was also addressed earlier today. We need to collect data and share it. So the first project I'm bringing to you today is the little town of Odense. It's only 200,000 people. I believe it's like, 1/3 of Bratislava. It's the home city of Hans Christian Andersen. Maybe you heard of him. It's a project, an urban transformation. It's 50,000 square meters of an old road. You could basically compare it to Staromeska, the 4-lane street. So you see, in the 60s, the wealth was growing. Everybody got a car. All of a sudden, it was almost a human right to drive your car straight into the historical center. And we've been living with that partition of the historical center and the harbor for 50 years. So 25,000 cars a day drove through and kind of created a barrier, a little bit like Staromeska. I think you can compare the size. I think maybe even you have more cars kind of driving over and parting your city. In the old days, there was a lot of historical buildings in that gap. And from the 60s, they just started demolishing cars straight into the center. And you don't get a better city. Still remember, it's a small city, so imagine it's kind of a big cut doing that. So after 50 years of having, let's say, a city where people felt disconnected to the harbor, to the water, felt disconnected to the historical center, a very visionary municipality and authorities made a competition. How could you mend the wound that the traffic had made for 50 years? This is a huge collaboration, and it takes very visionary politicians and great collaboration between the public and the private sector. We won the master planning and started a huge urban transformation of the central Odense. So 60,000 square meters of road was covered. The landscape architects made 4 new neighborhoods, and it came out to be 19 different plots that was sold, the building rights to private investors, to fund the whole restructuring of that road. A little bit like I hear you have going on with the Staromeska, maybe. So I'm advocating, think in the little spaces, think about infrastructure, the well-being of the citizens walking, bicycling, and of course, future systems like electrical trains. This is how it's then looking today. You see the kind of the cut where the 4-lane road went. The H. Christian Andersen Museum, Vihag was a part of. And it has not been easy. Imagine all the neighbors on each corner. Imagine all the stakeholders. And again, it's pretty rapid from 2014 till now. These are the new urban areas. You see kind of the historical center kind of merging a little bit now. And that's the new plots that was sold to pension funds, to private developers, etc., in order to exchange and have a financial model. So pedestrians and bicyclists has definitely been prioritized, and we've made a lot of effort with our architects and landscape architects and engineers to make very pleasant common spaces. The very little scale of the historical buildings, bicycle roads, and even the bricks, even all the materials have had like a high quality and an identity. So I'm going to show you a little drone movie that explains the process, also with the authorities and the advisors and the private collectors. How it's not that easy. I hope you can read the subtitles, else why it's translated, I should think.
Det, som gør mig stolt over det her projekt, det er, hvordan det er lykkedes for os at skabe menneskelige byrum.
At få lov til at lave et kvarter inde midt i en by, det er der ikke ret mange steder i verden, man gør. Thomas Petries-gade blev som vej bygget sidst i 60'erne. Den virkede som en enorm barriere mellem de to dele af byen.
Vores overordnede fokuspunkter har været at få bundet byen sammen igen og reparere det skår, som den gamle Thomas Petries-gade havde skabt.
Odense har igennem de senere år haft en intention om at gå fra en stor dansk by til en dansk storby. Og en storby, den skal have mange forskellige facetter.
En af de store udfordringer i projektet har været de mange grænseflader, vi har haft til andre projekter, der er foregået samtidig. Det nye H.C. Andersen-hus, det nye musikhus Odeon, Odense Letbane. Og den proces har krævet et kæmpestort logistisk arbejde, som Sweco også har været meget ind over.
Noget af det, som har været rigtig godt ved at have Sweco på, det er jo de her mange fagligheder, der ligger i firmaet. Og en anden styrke er jo også, at får man sat det rigtige hold, så får man spillet hinanden gode, således at vi opnår et endnu bedre resultat.
Vi har fået lov til at nørde så meget med materialer og belægningsdetaljer og beplantning, og man kan snakke om bæredygtighed på både den helt lille skala, hvor det handler om detaljerne og sørge for, at det er noget, der er langtidsholdbart. Men man kan også tænke det på et mere bystrategisk niveau, hvor man snakker om transportformer. For eksempel så har vi jo supercykelstien, der går igennem, som understøtter en bæredygtig transportform.
Sweco har jo løst opgaven, sådan så vi har fået et område, som folk godt vil færdes i, som både i byrum og i bygninger og i naboarealer har skabt en helhed.
I mange byudviklingsprojekter, der er det meget arkitekturen på byggerierne, der får lov til at stå i centrum og som får lov til at få fokus. Men byrummene her har fået lige det ekstra, som gør, at det faktisk er dem, der træder lidt i forgrunden. Og det er ret unikt for det her projekt. Jeg håber, det kan være med til at give Odense en fornemmelse af at være en samlet by igen. At de beslutninger, vi har taget i designprocessen, viser sig at være langtidsholdbare og skabe kvalitet for borgere og besøgende til Odense.
Right, so I hope that you get the feeling of this livable and the right scale city, like Mrs. Sidorova, I think, tried to talk about earlier. How do we develop a future-proof city development that is also nice for future generations, years to come? There was also some talk about parking. How do we solve this, also legislation-wise? Basically, we have a parking basement of 30,000 square meters. It's quite a lot, covering the whole site so that you can enter from various sides, 2 sides, and you can basically drive through the parking basement, and then you have the light rail train above. But as you could see, there's almost no traffic. It's walking, bicycling, and the light rail train. So the parking basement is the yellowish, which also have a little special feature since it's so large with daylight. Yeah. So please go visit if you're here. Right. Second, it's in Copenhagen. It's an urban development, 160,000 square meters of old logistics, being an old green market hall. A lot of traders, 800 trading companies a day, bringing in greenery. So these type of brownfield developments are quite close to the city center of Copenhagen. It's a massive logistic assignment doing new urban developments, these places. But there are some history that we shouldn't forget. There are some materials that we can reuse. So taking whatever structure that is still valuable, taking whatever materials we could use for the 5 new buildings we designed for this area. There's been other architects and landscape architects involved as well. I think the crucial part here is to create a central park, a central kind of a heart of a new development, and the diversity of You can rent apartment, you can own an apartment, you can live in co-living communities. So future-proof is also having various different habitants. So we reused some of the bricks that were present on site already. We create smaller, kind of intimate areas for the residents. I think I brought you a little video once again. So you can see more or less the overview of the area. So some of the logistics are still there, so we still have a little bit of retailing and the old vibe still there, combined with 3,000 new dwellings. That's quite a lot of people. Right. So the central garden here. Yeah, and you could ask yourself, why is this future-proof? But I believe that it's future-proof if you incorporate both social sustainability as well as ecological sustainability and a mixed use of inhabitants. Thirdly, the last project of new developments in Copenhagen, I'm bringing you the UN17 village, which is basically greenfield development, a whole new area of Copenhagen where we developed a smaller part, being 35,000 square meters. And basically, we're creating a neighborhood. We believe that it's future-proof if you have a commitment to your surroundings, to your neighbors. So this whole strip over here is a new part of Copenhagen being developed called Ørestad. We have the plot on the red line. How do you develop a whole new city that is just a mathematical city? That has been a challenge for 25 years. And now this is kind of the closing stamp where we've learned on the different developments throughout the time. This was from the original master plan, and as you can see, it is pretty from 2003. It's not that long ago, but still there has been some new ideas towards city planning. It looks very mathematical, almost like an Excel sheet. How do you do city planning? So the whole idea was, how do we create a neighborhood? And not even a neighborhood. Our client, NREP, wanted it to embed all 17 world sustainable goals as the first construction real estate in the world. So this is a laboratory, this is an experiment, and we're sharing the knowledge on how do you incorporate that into construction and into design. It's not the whole truth, but this is how far as we got. So, in order to make it a future-proof neighborhood, what did we focus on as the big 6 subjects? Definitely community, definitely biodiversity, materials being circular, being recycled, being CO2 optimized, health being daylight, being community, being sports activities on the ground floor, and water resources. The concept is 5 different buildings with each its identity, and wherever you live, senior housing in the green, family housing in the red, student housing in the black, you can access all the common areas in all of the other buildings. So perhaps you live a little bit smaller, but you can access that much more common areas and meet your neighbors. This is how it's looking on the rendering. So it's the farthest part of Copenhagen having protected meadow around on 2 sides, inviting in the landscape, inviting in the daylight, and inviting the surrounding neighbors to participate. A lot of energy is being produced on the roof. I believe we have 2,000 square meters of solar panels. It's going to be DGNB certified, WELL certified, and BREEAM certified as well. So that's a lot of certifications, but the thing about the social sustainability is definitely some that we are working on and putting the money into making sure that it's going to work. One of these buildings is a wood building. It's a CLT construction, and it's a 7-story high, and it's going to be smaller apartments with larger facilities. So it's like a co-living building. And we managed to build that up to 7 floors, which is pretty new in Copenhagen. It doesn't sound like much, but it hasn't been all that easy. But let's see if it goes here. So this is the southern part of Copenhagen. You see the airport in the back. CLT deck, CLT beams. You can hug your beam inside your apartment. So we're halfway there. This is from summer. So next year, summertime, we will have all the construction finished. So maybe you're noticing the concrete elements, which has been a huge part of the CO2 optimization. I hope you're aware of there's something called FutureSem, which is this product in the bottom. It saves 30% of CO2 emissions because it has more clay, basically, in the... and it's a huge saver on CO2 cost. And all of our construction, not the wooden building, is with that material. All other materials from the facade is reused aluminium, which we have been painting in different colors for the different identities, and upcycling, as my friend here, bricks and glasses, so that we have the main stairs in the hallways for the different buildings. And the contractor has taken also a huge, let's say, calculated risk, and it was a collaboration with the contractor taking reused and upcycled materials and creating new materials together with the contractor. So, big kudos to them, because it's a collaboration also. If we want to do better, if we want to do more recycling and upcycling, we need to help each other, insurance-wise, planning-wise, etc. So we used recycled window, recycled glass, recycled wood. We made the FutureSem concrete, upcycled plastic, and basically we saved a lot of CO2. This is like top 5 saver of CO2. As you know, our regulations are, we have to do design driven by data, and I truly believe this is the way forward. We saved a lot of CO2, light wooden facades. That's almost a no-brainer. Basically, roof constructions and floor separations, FutureSem number 4, 100 tons, and small things, just something like lightweight inner walls, huge savings as well, and you can kind of feel the wood feeling. So, being a future-proof neighborhood, we are trying to rent out and sell the apartments to different segments so that we get a mix of people of different ages, and basically it's going pretty well. So how do you measure putting in the World Sustainable 17 goals? Basically, it's a great tool to get holistically all the way around sustainability measures. This is kind of a map. It's not 180 points from the sustainable goals that we put in. We took actions that are more related to real estate development, and there's an action, and there's a plan, and when is it being activated, and then we're measuring and following up, and then we're sharing it with you guys if you want to get more into this. There's many ways to doing sustainable buildings. This is one of them. There's this taxonomy, there's certification, but basically a lot of common knowledge within regulatory. Shared spaces. We're all super interested in making buildings and creating, but I think really getting people to go out to the public space, meeting their neighbors, making the framework so that they will be happy for where they live, happy for their neighbors. So the client invested a lot of money in shared spaces, common kitchens, a cinema, a sports facility. There's a doctor present. So they can access all of these areas within the facilities. Yeah. So just from our side of the world, being advisors, consultants, architects, just a little plea. It's a little problematic that there's no one from the authorities here, because they need to be visionary. They need to have stamina, because as you see, urban developments take maybe 10 to 20 years. It needs to survive changing city councils, it needs to survive changing governments, not only 4 years at a time, but that's why the industry needs to make such visionary projects so that it can survive also citizen groups. So, a little plea to them. Early involvement of multidisciplines whenever we do urban development. Collaboration. And that's both within the different disciplines, being advisors, but it's also public and private particularly. Future-proof development, it also means, we don't know what's in the future, but it means to plan, so there's possibility for change, whatever that change is. Could it be the new energy sector? Could be. Could it be other types of vehicles? I don't know, but just plan it and see and have an adaptation. Nothing is sustainable if it cannot be changed, period. Please include all aspects of sustainability for the most future-proof concept, or at least have a plan, whether it be certification or whatever. Yes. I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mia.
Thanks.
And please choose your seat.
I will.
And I would like to welcome here also Ondřej and Philippe. And I would also like to welcome here one more person, Martin Stohl, who is the ESG manager at GNT Real Estate. Please, Martin, come over here. And I would like to also say about Martin that he's also a member of the board of Slovak Green Building Council. So please, Martin, take a seat.
I want the last comment.
So just to wrap up, we started with refuse, reuse, remix. We also talked about timber as a material. And now we are scaling up to urbanism, cities, and future-proof districts, as we heard in the last presentation. So the challenge is here on the table. The question is how we approach the challenge. We heard interesting presentations. So I will start with Philippe, if that's okay. So Philippe, what was that? The presentation you gave was completely different, like from the different world. So the question is it even possible to handle the architecture and urbanism in the way as you introduced, or is it still something what is a rocket science, so to say, in real life? how does it work in the real life? And do you think it can be applicable also here, for example, in Slovakia? Or how difficult it will be?
I think there is a big change today in the way of designing the city. So sometimes it's interesting to think that what we think that this is a human will to change the way of doing things. For example, now human people are more important than car, because it's very funny when you are in for example, I was in Warsaw in Poland or in Lausanne in Switzerland, and you have all this passage for the human people that go under the street and go out, and the car are on the top of the street, and you see the people very comfortable in the car, and during the winter, and the walking people, they have to go down here, and it smells not so good, and so it's funny to think that 40 years ago we think that cars were more important than the people, and the people have to do all the effort to go down and to move up, and so it's completely, today we have a completely reverse point of view. We think it's impossible to think that the car could be here, to assume to be like that. And so there is some change of moral point of view, or aesthetic point of view, or social point of view. And so we think that is our decision, but in reality, it's maybe the fact that we think humans are more important than car is depending of the oil crisis, of the CO2. It's not a politician that say today humans should be on the top of the street and no more on the bottom. It's only because cars are emitting too much CO2. So, okay, we change our mind and we think, okay, the car should be lower, should be not so important. So this is, for me, this is a kind of philosophical point of view, but I think the way of, bicycle are more important today than car, but it's maybe because the oil is emitting too much CO2, so we have to use bicycle. So, okay, maybe it's a progress, but it's also like going back in the history, So this is this kind of changing of thinking about the cities that are depending of the material condition and not about only human decision. More you have energy, more you have car, less you have energy, more you have a bicycle and people walking in the street, So we can see that more comfortable, but in the same time it can be like a decadence of the humanity,
Talking about energy, we have a straight question to the energy generated by the photovoltaics. And the question is how high the photovoltaics has to be placed in the park in order not to emit heat.
Sorry?
How high the photovoltaics needs to be so it doesn't emit and overheat the park itself. That's a question we have from the audience. So
if I may explain, there's a strong echo here. So basically you don't hear what the other person says there. So I'm sorry, this is why I will do the interpretation and saying what he said. It's not just for the fun. Actually, the question was, what is the height you have in which you have to have the solar panels in the park so that they do not emit heat underneath? So that you can walk underneath comfortably.
So the solar panel, the height is 6 meters high. We have like that, and so it's also because we have a topography, so we can have it cover the hill and it go down, and but it's not creating more or less. It can be 3 meters, 6 meters, but it's just an altitude that was good to have for the landscape to go under. But there is no relationship with the quantity of energy you can produce with the height. It's more the you have to choose the angle of the solar photovoltaic panel to get the most quantity of electricity.
Thank you.
It's not a one parameter question.
Yes.
And you also use computer simulations, as we could see, so you probably have also this as an input,
Yes.
how high things
Yes.
should be. Thank you.
If I may question to Mia, so the hard one,
Yes.
how to convince the private investors and developers that an investment in sustainability and social inclusion, like building spaces for well-being of communities, is a crucial part for any investment. Some
Beautiful
advice.
questions. And yeah, I think definitely there are some nudging here, but of course it comes down to cash. And if we can convince our great collaborators, the private investors and developers, there is cash in community feeling, then we have a case, because we are aware of the very soft subjects within having a great community. So the case here, NREP, hardcore capital developer. Of course, there's a business in doing smaller units, larger common areas. You pay the same,
Martin?
basically. You pay the same.
Well, I completely agree with Mia. As the baker is making money on bread, we are developers, we're making money on developing buildings. So in the first place, you have this principle that we are making money. But my conviction as an architect and as sustainability specialist in the company, I have been with developers for the last 15 years, is that there is a big transition in the perception of what we are doing in our business. And my role in it, as I see it, is to convince the developers that there is no contradiction between doing good business
Exactly.
and having sustainable buildings and seeing it from exactly good communities, and also from the perspective of an architect, we can have beautiful buildings as well. So I think this is the very revolutionary transitional period we are living in. We are facing climate change, and the responsible businesses are recognizing this. Moreover, I think the market is maturing to the stage where the banks, investors, and clients are asking for it. So everything is coming together.
Right, so basically it's understanding the framework of a good business case together with great architecture and city planning, because then we can create great models for co-living, sharing more, as long as, like, at the end of the day, that we make the world go around, so to say. And I see more and more tendency that your property has added value if you invest that little bit more in having a great community or common facilities in the ground floor. It's not that much more. Maybe you need to hire one person to be like the host and go around making everybody feel comfortable, making events. Maybe that's a little extra cost on the kind of getting it together, but I think it's worth it. That's what I hear whenever you sell your assets.
And it's also maybe about collaboration.
It's also it's always collaboration.
Straight question to you, Ondřej. Was the money reason why Lahofer winery was not made out of timber?
No, absolutely not.
So what was the reason? Because that's a question for the audience.
The reason asked me 8 years ago, why not? But frankly, I love to work with the timber. I feel, I know that it's a material of the future, definitely. But it's not suitable for every project. I like to be typology project specific, and I think that in our case, we were looking for something very solid and cold as well, because the archetypical shape of the space was inspired by typical wine cellars in our region, in the Znojmo region, and therefore we chosen concrete instead of timber, because it's something what is more, in our opinion, more descriptible regarding the archetypical wine cellar-like space. So that was just like an idea of how to express what we wanted. But maybe in today, I'm gonna think twice if maybe the similar atmosphere we are able to create out of timber, because the timber story is huge, and I think it's definitely very important material to consider for every project, but maybe not for everyone, for every.
So we can close it. It was reconsidered, but in this project it was not the ideal solution.
It wasn't like architecturally. We were not convinced to use timber. There were different reasons than the money.
Fair enough.
We have one question for Philippe that comes from the public, and it's regarding the Central Park in Taiwan City. I like the idea of air quality stations in park. However, to have the every 50 meters is a big waste of resources. Why did you choose this strategy?
We have to understand that like 10 years ago, the question of energy was dominating the debates. So someone showed a diagram with the quantity of CO2 for the construction, for the material, for the energy, and so we still see that the energy is the most important problem. It's like when you build a windmill, in steel. You see it's a huge concrete foundation, then you have the steel, and then you have the big mile like that. And when you look to that, you think, okay, it's a waste of material, in steel. But in reality, I think in 3 months of producing energy, the production of electricity made by the windmills, the CO2 economy compensate the CO2 emission from building that. So this is always something that we have to keep in mind, that there is maybe 2 different debates, the one of energy and then the one of the resource. And it's true that the success of passive house system, to have a 26 centimeter of thermal insulation around the building. So before, the energy was a big problem, and then it became more or less problematic because of that, and so the CO2 of the material become half of the problem. So it's why we start to say, okay, now we have to stop concrete and to use wood. But because we have thermal insulation, if you don't have thermal insulation, you can still build in concrete in a certain way. I mean, okay, first we have to do a very good job on thermal insulation, and then we understand, okay, now the concrete is now the problem, so we can. So it's why, for me, when we designed this project, the question of the material was less problematic, because we were in a time where we first need to work on energy. And today, of course, we think, okay, we have to move also to the material, and then maybe, as I say, maybe we have to stop to build so much, and to maybe to change the building, and then the final moment will be, okay, maybe we have to stop to live in cold country and to go back to Africa, where it's more comfortable for human to live, because one reason of the CO2 emission is also because we are living in very cold area, and the human body is not made for living in Europe, it's too cold, so we have to come back in Africa and we will economize the CO2 emission,
I'm afraid we will come to Africa, or Africa comes climate-wise here. Thank you, Philippe. There's one more question for Mia, or there are several questions, but let's start with the first one. I think one that many people in Slovakia would ask: where did you move all the cars from the city center? Was there a new road built at the other location?
Right. So zooming out of Odense being these 200,000 people inhabitants, we made a larger traffical study with our road engineering, finding out that they could use existing roads to take part of the car traffic. Additionally, a whole new light rail train was put in the middle of the center of the new development in order to take a lot of the commuting traffic. So that means a lot of cars wasn't necessary anymore. And being a residential person in the new development, you can go underground, there's parking spaces, and you can go through. So basically there's one lane going underneath the area. But I think it's a success story, basically, that fewer cars, now it's been done for the past 1 year and a half. There's not a traffic jam because we just cut off the roads, basically. It's not a problem. People are bicycling more, they are taking the tram. That's a great story, basically.
Thank you. Martin, can you imagine something like this in Bratislava?
Well, definitely we need more inspirations from abroad. We heard so many beautiful examples from abroad, but back to our reality, we are facing so many challenges here, as we heard from the morning. So I really wish this beautiful venue was sinking 10 centimeters deeper with all the people from all levels of government today, because they are the first who should hear it. We're lucky here in Bratislava that we have very enlightened government, luckily. But what I would like to say is that basically all these topics are not limited to the election period for 4 years, and also not limited by any borders. And it is very much multidisciplinary crisis which are facing, the climate crisis. So I think this is important, that I would like to stress that and underscore it, that basically we should all sit together, discuss. One example that we have here concretely in Bratislava is the Livability development, where we are trying to do BREEAM communities certification, where we are putting together unprecedented selection of consultants who deal with all kinds of microclimate issues as well, but also the groundwater topics and many others. So we are trying to set an example how it could be done here in our conditions in Bratislava, and we are hoping for the best.
Thank you.
Ondřej, I will take advantage that you have experience not only from this environment in Slovakia, Czech Republic, but also abroad. What do you think is the biggest barrier here with applying what you are able to apply maybe somewhere else? The same applies for what you said, Mia, that why it's not happening here? What is the biggest barrier? Is it the collaboration problem, for example?
I don't know. You're still faster here than in the Czech Republic in the permitting process. We are like Burkina Faso tempo, and it's very weird. And I don't know. We just work in Albania, in Tirana, and there's the process is maybe super fast, but from the competition to the construction, kickoff of the construction is a year, and in our country it's like 5, 10 sometimes, and I think there's lack of dialogue and maybe lack of collaboration. Yeah, as you mentioning the magic word. It's very important to collaborate and to speak about the topics because and to have someone who is able to moderate the dialogue, because then it's not a dialogue, that is serious monologues, and that doesn't lead to a successful result. So I think we have to find the right people to lead the dialogue and to be able to communicate across the stakeholders and across everyone involved.
Please.
I hate to say this.
Sorry, maybe one more thing,
Yes.
last thing. Usually it's consider that the leader of the dialogue is an architect, but it's not true. There are very specialized companies. They are the dialogue leaders, and they are able to find the logic and method how to bring the people around the table and to find a result. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be a little bit unpopular here, but you guys, you need more regulation. You do. I'm sorry. But what drives the sustainable agenda today? It's not something, yes, that could be nice. No, this is law. You need to, because, are you going to do it because of a great heart? Maybe, but that's like 10% of you guys. If you had laws that said maximum 10, 12 kilograms CO2 square meters per year, then you would get, what do we need to do? We need to innovate. We need to talk to people. We need to collaborate. If you had demands for, you need to deliver LCA analysis on your building, or else you couldn't get a permit to use your building. That's what we have in Denmark. Imagine that. You want to use your building that you just developed? Well, deliver documentation that it is on the right level of carbon emissioning. That would drive a sustainable agenda for you guys. Because now you have, we want to be neutral, carbon neutral by 2030, but what's your plan? How are you going to do that? You don't know. Boom. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, that sounds. We need the legislation as a lever to leverage up the things we talk about.
It drives development, and it's not a bad thing, guys.
But Martin is getting a bit nervous. How developers would react to that?
No, we are happy with all the movement which drives basically the initiatives towards more sustainability. Where we are unhappy is the regulations which restrict our actions. I will maybe give one example for many. We would like to use, for example, geothermal energy. And there are so many restrictions. When you are taking the water from the ground, you're using it for all the energy, and then you're putting it back to the ground. You are paying fees just for using this water, which is completely ridiculous. There are many, many restrictions, like we discussed, the fire code regulations and others. So basically, I think on one hand, I completely agree with you that we need the push towards the sustainability, but on the other hand, we need to make much more sober all the regulations which don't make sense anymore.
So we can make a conclusion that regulation might be a tool for solving all the topics and issues we talk about today. And you all would welcome if these things would be applied as a must, not as a volunteering thing, then probably the market would change in a way that, as we wish.
I would like to add just one final word, if I may, unless any one of you would like to add. Because the dinner perfumes are coming, so not to delay you. But still, for the Slovak Chamber of Architects, I would like to explicitly mention some other aspects of sustainability that were not so emphasized today, although Mia mentioned them several times, but they have been included in the works of our speakers, definitely. It's the importance of the cultural and social sustainability. So I'm not just speaking about the environmental one. That's something that really relates also to Philippe's presentation. And just the final words were, after today, I'm still hopeful that the new European Bauhaus could be also in Slovakia more than just a political slogan. So let me finish with the 3 pillars that are important. So it's the sustainability, inclusivity, but let's not forget the beauty. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.